We're professionals. Let's get spicy!
For the third time. Gemma, hit the intro.
Thank you for welcoming us into your headphones. My name is Chema.
I'm Eddie.
And this is Jim here for the first time in a while.
Reviewing Dune Part 2. This is the rollback. Long live the fighters. Follow the mythic journey of Paul Atreides as he unites with Shani and the Freemen while on a path of revenge against the conspirations who destroyed his family. Facing a choice between the love of his life and the fate of the known universe, Paul endeavors to prevent the terrible future only he can foresee. So this is Dune Part 2, directed by Denis Villeneuve, starring Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, Dave Bautista, Christopher Walken, Leah Seydoux, Stellan Skarsgård, Javier Bardem, and other colorful characters. So, first Dune came out while we were quite deep into the pandemic. Very few people got to see it in theaters. Most of us saw it on our HBO Max accounts from home. And I think if y'all remember, I mean, I don't know if Eddie remembers or if Jim remembers, but we were a bit harsh on the first Dune.
Okay, actually, if you remember, there was it was really polarizing that the movie decided to come out in theaters. Because I don't know if you remember, but both Denis Villeneuve and David Lynch said that going to see this movie in theaters was like going to church, that it was a religious experience. A lot of people were mad about that, but I think they were correct then, and I think they are correct now.
I'm gonna have to agree. Look, I watched the first one. I watched it at home. We were knee deep in the pandemic. There were if you'll go back and rewatch that review that we did, it's one of our shortest because it's only 20 minutes because I am very like defiant because I refuse to see this as like a full product. It feels like half of a product, and I will judge this. I will judge it when the second one comes out. And Eddie did not share my sentiment. He decided to crap on the first one. And now we're here. We made it. And we got to see part 2. I got to see it on macro XE 75 millimeter. And I am glad to say that even though I am not a religious man, fuck it, yeah, this felt like going to church. I adored Dune Part 2, and it retroactively made me like Dune Part 1.
Okay, this is interesting because I did not know that Eddie originally shat on Dune Part 1. Can we get some details about that, Eddie? How did you feel about the first one?
I'm gonna say, how is this? I'm gonna disarm this, and then I'm gonna explain the bomb.
Okay.
So Dune Part 2 is outstanding and a great film. Like genuinely nothing but praise, right? So I'm gonna just, put the pin back in the bomb. But I want to explain something here. One of my biggest problems with the first Dune was the fact that I felt like things were not very well explained. There were concepts that I didn't understand, or it was hard to follow. Like it wasn't that I didn't understand. It's the fact that like the movie, to me at least, didn't do a very good job of explaining some things because we're in a completely made up world. Imagine just like that there's this, oh yeah, the Sith, da 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 da. Like, no, we need you to walk us through and explain these concepts that are out of our realm. I felt like the second one did such a much better job of explaining these concepts and ideas to a point where after I saw Dune Part 2, I went back and rewatched Part 1 and it made so much more sense and I liked it so much more.
Wow.
Now, I'll also say this. Though. The fact that these two movies are not meant to be two films. They're meant to be one long epic because Dune has no middle part. The first one just ends with Paul being accepted by the Freemen to go on a journey, along with his mom and everyone else and whatnot. So I stand by the fact that like that ending kind of felt a little twisty. It felt a little hollow. That said, after watching part two and then rewatching part one, I get it more, but that shouldn't be the thing. I will stand behind that criticism.
Yeah, and I remember back when the first movie came out, I loved it. Personally, I love it. It's on my letterbox as one of my four on my profile.
Yeah.
I watched it a million times. I put it on the background sometimes, and I remember that I was really shocked to find out that Chema didn't love it. And mostly because of what he mentioned that it felt incomplete, but also I remember very clearly that he had some criticisms about it as an adaptation, right? Because he had read the book a long time ago, and that's always going to change things. And I feel like it's interesting that we are in this position now where all three of us have kind of had our roles shuffled a little bit
Yeah.
because and I'm not going to disarm this bomb, I'm going to throw it at you all. I didn't love this movie. Uh, I I I have a lot to say about it, but I didn't super. I guess I have a lot of complaints about it, and
Yeah.
it's mostly about its role as an adaptation from the book. Because in between the release of both movies, I, like a faithful follower of Muad'Dib, I went and read the book. And I'm also partway through the second book. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I feel like I have a lot to go through here. I mean, I didn't actually hate the movie, uh, but I do think we can have some interesting conversations. So what do you want to jump into first?
Well, the first thing is regarding the adaptation aspect of this, which I think is very important in a sense, because there are going to be people that did read the book and are going to try to find it to be, they're going to try to find it as, they're going to try to find like a faithfulness to the book. And growing up, when I was like 12 or 13, when I started really becoming a reader, um, you fall into these not stereotypes, but like these tropes of a very faithful reader, which is the book is better than the movie, the book adapts more, the book shows more, etc. It's the original vision, and you fall into this pipeline of the movie can never be as good as the book. And as I grow older, I now reject that. There are movies that can be better than the book, and
Right,
sometimes there can be movies that are completely different from the book, and they just grab elements from the book and just remix them and just make them work. And to me, they're experimental, and to me, that's way cooler than doing a one-on-one adaptation of the book. Because, like, why would you make a one-on-one adaptation? Like, what are you gaining? Like, just read the book. And while watching this, I had like a rewire of my brain because when this movie started and they showed us those soldiers and they started flying like in a line towards the mountain,
gorgeous.
and you felt like the gravity, you felt the weight of them just flying. And I took my book and I just threw it to the trash and I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm in Denis' vision, whatever he wants to do. I'm not gonna love it, but I am open to it. And oh shit. And I there are some things that do happen in the book that are not happening here,
Yeah,
that they're very clearly adapting out. I think they did it on purpose for the whole purpose of not aging the characters too much. I do think while the movie I don't think it's being done specifically towards the people who read the book, and I do think they're trying to make it acceptable for like a lot of people. Not gonna lie, I do think they are marketing this to the Timothy Chalamet fans, to the Zendaya fans, to
right.
people who just want to see them on screen. And I think adding that extra element, I don't want to say it just yet before we apply spoilers here. But I think applying that one too early would have been a detriment. I think this movie does like an Empire Strikes Back thing. I know I'm not the first person to say it, but it really show if the first one is a rise, this is well, maybe this is more of a rise, but like in another direction. Um, and I do think it works as not as an adaptation, but it does work as a reinterpretation of the elements that were in the book. And this is Denis' vision.
So
That's how I feel. Yeah.
we are reviewing Dune 2, so I don't want to talk about Dune 1 too much.
Yeah.
But you mentioned some things that jump at me because I personally, and this also connects back to what Eddie was saying, I feel the first movie improves on the book.
Yeah.
Uh, like I really think the first Dune movie is the definitive part, the definitive version of part one of this story, right? And I think I feel that way about it because it is very immersive and understated. I feel like it's really experimental. It is essentially just a mood piece that relies on the talent of its actors to sell you on their relationships. Like pretty much the only way you get to know how these characters feel about each other is through their body language with one another. And I think that movie does a really good job of building all the affection that the Atreides family feels for each other. And then also throwing them into this alien world where Paul particularly, right, feels simultaneously drawn into and rejected by in some ways. So I do think the first movie accomplishes these things very well. I think it is a good adaptation because it improves upon the book. Some of the changes specifically, like they made Jamis more significant in the movie than he is in the book originally. I think all that stuff fantastic. But when you jump into this movie, it does feel like at least when it comes to production and scope, this movie's trying more to be a blockbuster than the first one was. I don't know if you'll agree with me on that.
Oh, by
Definitely.
miles, by miles. This has so many action set pieces, um, different moments that you can call upon and be like, that was a big one. That was a big one. But definitely a more obvious villain also. Like in the first one, it's just like, hey, we're gonna send some assassins to fucking kill these guys.
Right.
Versus in this one, where not only do we have, very clear antagonists, we have what I would arguably call a rival to Paul in, I think it's what, Feed Rotha?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you, when you said a clear villain, you weren't talking about Paul?
Oh,
Interesting.
I was gonna say actually,
Interesting.
is this movie a play on? I mean, is the book a play on the white savior complex, or are we not gonna talk about
Yes. I mean, if you want to touch on that a little bit, I've been seeing a lot of complaints online about people saying like, why do people like this movie? It's a white savior story. And to those people, I want to say, congratulations, you have found the point. Uh, and yeah, it is a commentary on that. Um, and the thing is, I also feel like this is why we cannot divorce this movie entirely from being an adaptation, and why I've had such a hard time just judging it on its own. It's because this movie incorporates a lot of material from Dune sequels into it, and it does sort of. I think some of it is good because I think like what Chema said that Paul is a villain in this movie. I think that's something people should come away feeling from this film. Did that get you at all, Eddie?
that Paul should come off as the villain? I not till the very end where he was grabbing power.
Yeah.
At the very end, it was like, oh, okay, so here's the like, what do you say? The phrase that made me go, this is very topical, especially considering what's going on right now in the Middle East. Not gonna say names, but like,
Mm,
show them paradise. Oh, okay, like that's the route
strong.
we're gonna go on this desert planet, right? With these people that speak a foreign tongue that like comes off in a certain way. Okay, yeah, they're waiting for the Messiah, the dude that's gonna like, oh fuck.
Yeah, and that's also a thing because the movie has this element, and I really wanna show on this because I thought it was brilliantly done. There's the character of oh God, what was his name? Javier Bardem's character Stilgar, and who
As it
plays
is written,
yeah, look, in the first movie, he was this a little bit more serious character, and then in this one, he starts coming off at the beginning almost like comic relief, like everything that Paul does. It's like, oh my God, he's the Messiah.
at one
he,
point, he is too
he
humble to admit he is the Messiah.
yeah, which is something out of
I did
like
laugh out loud at that one.
it was super funny, and everyone in my theater was laughing. But then by the end, when he did it, the last time that he did it, when he goes like, as it was written, it kind of hits you like, oh my God, no, like it's wrong. Like they are blindly following him in
Yeah.
like a religious fanaticism. And like it's funny at the beginning. And I think that's a play on how almost like cults could get you. You know, they could like show you this charismatic thing because we were all like laughing with him, you know, like, it's so funny. And then it's like, oh no,
He
he's
believes it.
like legit. Yeah, and it's pretty obvious. Like I know we all walked out of that movie thinking like, "Oh my God, that was so funny. He was so funny." Like get you a friend that hypes you up like this and shit. And but then the actual lesson is
It's
like
dangerous.
this man's is brainwashed, you know?
Yeah.
There,
Yeah.
there was a part, and I want to point this out real quick. This is one of those things that's like, it's not clear in the first film that they make very clear in the second film. In the first film, when Javier Bardem, I think this might be the only fucking time where I'm going to say the actors' names more than the goddamn character names, because Jesus Christ. When he goes to meet with Paul's dad, Leto, played by
Oscar Isaac.
not Han Solo,
What?
Yeah. Yeah, Oscar Isaac, yes.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac. Thank you very much.
This
When
is the first and only time that Isaac has been referred to as not Han Solo.
Well, because I felt like in the new trilogy.
Uh,
Anyway, I pulled back. That said, when he goes to meet him for the first time in the first film, they're like, like this is an honorable moment, like you should show some respect. And he looks around at them and he spits on the table. And Thanos is like, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy. And they're like, no, no, it's a sign of respect. Thank you for your moisture. And we get Aquaman spitting, and so does Oscar Isaac. And it's you don't understand. It's like, why are they spitting? Why is that the custom? In this film, oh look, thank you for the explanation. Liquid water is the source of life. To give it up is the most sacred thing. Never waste water. At one moment, when the mother cries, he wipes her tear and says, never waste it, and drinks her tear.
oh no.
And that,
Uh
no, but like that's just one of those things that's like, I would have been nice if that context was given in the first film. So I can acknowledge, oh, this is a big deal. When we watched the first one, I'm like, oh, he's showing that's his way of respect. Anyway, um, there's also a real funny meme that I saw of it was Paul farts, this guy, as it is written. Oh God. Yeah.
There is a cologne commercial with Timothy Chalamet, and there is a big sign of it, and I drive through it on my way to work. And ever since I saw the movie, every time I drive through it, I just go like, "Is Al Gaib?
Lisan al-Gaib?
Is Al Gaib Messiah?" As it was written. Look, um, my big thing regarding the I don't need an explanation. The thing is that I didn't really need an explanation on the water thing. Like I was fine
No.
with it being like, well, it's custom, you know.
It's a
I
desert planet.
It is a desert planet. It was pretty easy to get to that conclusion. Um, I don't know. A big thing. Should we just arrive to the conclusion that Leto was the most normal person that's gonna exist in this entire world? Like totally chillaxed man, and then everyone else just fucking insane.
Pretty much yes.
pretty much is. Yeah, I do have one joke, but I want to make it a little later. I want to talk a little bit more about like the blockbuster aspect of this because
Right.
I think it's got like a ton of scenes. I kind of wish I hadn't seen the trailers for this because it showed a lot of scenes that I felt like would have been very impactful to see, like the scene where the other Reverend Mother is like, consider what you're about to do, Paul Atreides, and he goes, silence.
Yeah.
I wish because that was in every trailer, and I
That
wish I
was in
hadn't seen
trailers.
it.
I
That was
don't
in
think I saw
trailers.
trailers for this movie.
All trailers that I saw for this were because they showed them before I saw
Other
other movies,
movies.
which kind of sucks. Now I understand why you arrived late to the movies
Oh
to
yeah,
skip those trailers.
absolutely. I got
Yeah.
to this one exactly as the legendary logo was popping up on screen.
Did you
Or
hear the dialogue beforehand or not?
damn it, no, I guess I didn't.
Yeah, so there's a Warner Brothers logo, and then there's like Chani has some dialogue in her native tongue, it's uh and then it's the legendary logo.
Oh.
I think the first one did the same thing. I think.
The first one did Sardaukar at the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah, they say dreams are messages from the deep in Sardaukar.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, in this one, it's Chani, and she said something along the lines of like, "Look who
Sam's
are,"
no Spice opens something.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, and speaking of the blockbuster aspect, like I said, there was that scene, the scene of that shot of Paul with his back turned towards us and him seeing the explosions, him looking at the Freeman and just like raising a fist. Those were all fantastic scenes. I think the scene that like had me almost like floating was when he's giving like the big speech towards the Freeman, and he goes, "At the time, this world had a Fremen name," and someone says like, "Say it," and he goes, "Dune." Like in that moment, I swear, like I was gonna punch the person next to me. I was so hyped. Like it,
Wow.
like it. This movie did something to me, man. Like it really like rewired some kind of internal thing. Like I craved a big fat, juicy blockbuster like this. I can't believe we got it in March.
Did
I can't
you give
not believe it.
water to this movie?
Did I? Oh, so here's the thing. I did not eat while watching this movie. I just had a big drink. I had fused tea, and the first one I got the full 4DX experience because I watched it without drinking water. So
Wow.
yeah. But this one, no, I had like a large tub of fused tea. Because I got like a two for one, and I went with my sister. And every time that I felt I was about to like fall asleep, I had like a sip, and then I would go back. Uh, yeah, I think those were good scenes. I think the scene everyone was going to talk about is the scene where he finally writes the worm,
Oh
and
yeah.
that scene combined with Hans Zimmer's score, I think it's one of those scenes that we're gonna see. Just it's gonna be handpicked and used to like when we talk about the great movie scenes. I think it's gonna be there. I
You
think
know
it's
that
so
there's
memorable.
a few things that I'm unhappy with in this movie.
Yeah,
But this scene, Paul riding the worm, it made my heart race.
yeah,
I was right there with him. I was feeling it. I watched this in IMAX, and I feel like for once in my stupid theater, they really tuned the sound system the way they were supposed to, because you could feel every single second that this was happening. And I cannot hate a movie that moves me to the core like that. So yeah, that scene is really one for the ages.
definitely.
That scene didn't do anywhere near as much for me, I think, as it did as one of the quiet scenes
Right.
when they're talking about the Great Lake underneath like the safe haven. I
Yeah,
think Javier Bardem's character says there's like eight eight like giga liters of water, enough to restore the whole planet. Like that moment, for some reason, the silence hit me more than that worm scene. Like it was cool. Don't get me wrong, it was awesome. But I was just like, I'm sorry, just like as a contrast to that. I for some
Mm,
that scene
right.
harder than that. But no, the riding the worm scene, no, that was still pretty epic. I'll give you that.
So I did give water to this movie on one occasion. I was not expecting to, but I did also cry in one of the more quiet scenes. When Paul earns his Fremen names after the battle, when they claim that since he's now a Fedaykin warrior, he should have names. And first they go with Usul, right? You're the pillar. This is your secret name that only we get to know. You're Usul. And then when he picks his warrior name, his war name, he goes with Muad'Dib, which is the name of the field mouse in the desert, right?
Yeah.
And Stilgar remarks that it is a wise name because Muad'Dib shows the way, and Muad'Dib is the name of their northern star constellation. And Muad'Dib is wise to the ways of the desert. That scene in the book is really powerful to me, and seeing it on screen just really brought the tears out of me.
I think that's my favorite part in the book too, because it really
Yeah.
feels like the end of one journey and this the beginning of another one.
Mhm.
So yeah, a big thing in this movie, and that I think we need to give props to the real hero of this movie. I think the real person that should be in the conversation is Greg Fraser, who did the cinematography for this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
So he was a cinematographer for Rogue One. He was a cinematographer for The Batman. He was the cinematographer for Lion and Vice and Zero Dark 30 and Foxcatcher. And I think he's so talented. And I think the movie works because of a combination of a ton of elements. But I think his visuals and the way that he captures the vision of Denis and the book really comes through. So this he should get an Oscar for this.
Oh, absolutely.
I think this is fucking wonderful. Just
But
the
what
way
are
that
what are
he
some of
makes it
y'all's
look.
favorite shots?
Oh my God. Oh God. Paul standing in front of the people and like when he says "Long live the fighters."
Oh, and you just see an idea of the scale of how many people there are.
Yeah, you get that full scale of like him walking amongst the people and all of them like making space for him. I think that's a big one. The fact that this movie, like, of course, it's got CGI, but it feels practical. A ton of it feels practical.
I
Even
think
the worm felt real.
the what?
The worm, like, even the worm
Yeah,
felt,
it's the light touch that makes it feel real. Uh,
yeah,
I think I remember hearing that they did use some practical effects to like sand ride. They did do that practically, and then
yeah.
they added the worm digitally. So like you seeing someone guide through the sand, you're actually seeing that part to some degree.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as the cinematography, the Colosseum, I remember that scene made me go,
Oh,
huh.
the black and white scene?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
Fuck
the
me.
fact that when they pop fireworks, it wasn't like it was more like an ink dispel rather than like actual fireworks. Those little things. But yeah, the whole black and white, under our black sun. It's like, wait, what? I thought that was impossible. Obviously, we're in a science fiction world, but all these little things, I enjoyed that. The setting. And like you
Right.
said,
For me, I really like really simple blocky style photographs. And this movie really has something for everyone because they had one specific shot. It is in the middle of the guerrilla warfare when they are trying to get rid of Glosuraban as the fief of Arrakis. When they set up one of the spy silos to blow up. And you get this really quiet shot of the silo, like a little bit after dusk, and then suddenly it just explodes. Uh, I really like the composition of the initial photography for that particular scene because you just get uh, a straight line of sky, and it's a really pretty tone of blue. And then you get this little Geiger-esque building right in the center of the frame. So it really just feels very focused and very architectural. And then it just explodes. And honestly, yeah, every little detail in this movie. Fantastic.
Yeah, I love the fight between Paul and Fade Rotha.
Oh, at
You
the
know how
end.
they, yeah, you know how they cut the music and they just let like the natural sounds of them fighting and the Foley just take over, and they have that line, the may thy knife chip and shatter, and you hear like Fade just kind of go like may thy knife chip and shatter, like he's kind of crazy, like he's such an insane character, and it really freaked me out when he wasn't in the first movie in the first movie because he's kind of should be there from the very beginning.
Hmm.
So I figured when he was put in the second one, I was like, they really gotta let him pop off. They really gotta make him like appear as insane as possible. And who better than to get the insane person that played Elvis? So might as well.
I was really happy to hear Eddie mention that he saw Faggot as a rival to Paul,
Mhm.
because that is the point, and that means it worked. And if you come in with the book in your mind, like but it is nice to know that for someone who was not familiar with the material, that worked out as well. That means they executed it beautifully. And I also, in the book, it's very explicit that he's as close to being a Quistis Haderach as Paul was before coming to Arrakis. And in the movie, it is one of the more understated things in it because you just get this one scene where he tells Lady Fenrir that he has seen her in dreams before. So that's how you know that he also has a bit of future sight. And that's the only thing they tell you to draw that parallel between him and Paul. But that also tells you why they are so evenly matched in their fight, even if Paul can see the future.
Well, like at one point, I remember them when she pulls out the box. By that point, I think they give him like a solid 12-minute scene by himself where we just follow him in the gladiatorial arena, playing with his food, threatening his uncle. He gets interviewed, all this stuff, just for like a short, maybe 10 to 12-minute burst. Um, and the second I see the box, I'm like, he's not gonna flinch. He's gonna be fine. Like this guy is enough of a psychopath. The pain's he's either gonna enjoy it or he can tough it out.
Yeah.
And I remember the part where I think the main I can't pronounce these names. Bene Gesserit, the main one though. The main one.
Yeah, Mother Gaius, yes.
Yes, her when she's like, "Have you secured the bloodline?" And all I see is this poor late young lady just be like, "The bloodline is secure." Like, oh no, you did that with that guy. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
All right, then that's the direction we're going with this. Which that little bastard is still in play, by the way.
absolutely.
I believe it's
So
a girl.
it is okay. Then that little girl is still in play. So we'll see what happens in the future. As someone who's never read Dune, I'm interested to see how that story might play out. As someone who loves stories where children come and avenge their parents, who would understand more than Paul? You killed my father. My name is Antonio. No, my name is what? And prepare to
My name
die.
is Antonio
Inigo
Banderas. Yeah.
What?
Montoya.
Antonio.
Inigo
No,
Montoya.
what is it?
I'm just telling you twice. Inigo Montoya.
And yeah, they got Enrico Montoya. Prepare to die.
Okay. They made that movie. It's called The Northman. So by the
Oh.
way, just so you know. Speaking of little kids, the one aspect of this movie that kind of took me out, but I cannot for the life of me find an alternative, is that they kept having these not flashbacks, but like these kind of visions where Lady Jessica's fetus was
Yeah,
kind of
fetus
talking to
cam.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah, we
God.
had a
Okay.
whole fetus cam. Um, Eddie, you are not familiar with this, but there is a joke here in Mexico where there was once a march to
Oh my God.
quote unquote protect the family, and it was a bunch of conservatives trying to stop abortion from being put into law. And a very memorable moment from that march is that this woman had this sign that had a fetus, and it had like a little comic book dialogue balloon, and it said, "I want to be an engineer." So it is very common as a joke that when Mexicans see a fetus, they say, "Oh, an engineer."
Yes.
So And we say it as a joke. Like sometimes we use like little shrimp from like from like merchants boxes, and we say like, "Oh, look, an
An
engineer."
engineer.
So this was horrible to see it with a bunch of Mexicans because like we were all laughing at the fetus because we all saw it and we were like, "An engineer! She wants to be an engineer." Um.
Yeah, there's
So
also this really famous video that gets played in every sex ed class in Mexico.
oh yeah,
That is a fetus in utero crying about not wanting to be aborted, right?
yeah,
And because these two things are very present in the Mexican subconscious,
yeah.
a lot of
The
times they're
Mexican
equated together.
psychics.
And so every time you see a fetus in a movie, you think about those two things. Like
Yeah.
there's no way because you already have in your mind the vision of a fetus scam. So every time you see a fetus scam, you know that's the engineer fetus.
Yeah. Um.
Oh no.
That see a scene like that in like the movie The Northman, which there are scenes like that
Oh
in The
boy.
Northman. I think that works because it kind of has this fantasy aspect, so those shots kind of feel there. This one, it kind of took me out. Not gonna lie, like I could not take those parts seriously. And then, of course, it is important. I don't know what would have been better, like because I don't know if having Lady Jessica just talk about like, oh, like my baby told me this. I don't know if she would have come off as insane. I don't know. But a big thing is that every time we would see the fetus, I would think like, "There's the engineer. There's the future engineer."
Might have worked out.
It might have worked out. Not gonna lie, but maybe they really wanted to use that CGI for something.
I
And
mean
then Paul finally has a vision where he talks to his baby sister, and she's played by Anna Taylor
Anna
Joy.
Taylor-Joy, yeah.
Yeah, which is cool because finally we saw where the Latino side of the family went after Oscar Isaac.
right.
It's
Oh,
cool
that's
to see
right.
him went somewhere.
But well,
Yeah,
you know this. So let's let Eddie in on it.
yeah,
The book takes place over a period of years, like
yeah.
years and years. I think about 4 or between 4 and 7 years, I think, something like that. Um, the movie, I think Chema mentioned, like they didn't want to age up the characters too much. I
Yeah.
have no idea why. Timothy and Zendaya are both 26. Paul is 15. Like there's a lot of interplay there. They could have made him be 20 or something. They didn't have to keep everything because everything we see in this movie happens in around 7 months.
Yeah.
Because Jessica comes in pregnant and she leaves pregnant. So it's not even 9 months long. Um, but the thing is, in the books, she gives birth, obviously, and the baby is born fully conscious. So that's the thing, and you have in the book Aaliyah as a whole ass character because she's her own person ever since the moment she pops out of Jessica. And if you want to do the movie before she's born, I guess that's the only choice you really have, fetus scam. I don't know how else you go about it. But I don't know why they went with that. My guess is that they thought it was better to do that than to cast a toddler to play Aaliyah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
you don't want to Breaking Dawn this bitch.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that might have been it. They might just have been like, making a baby is too problematic. Keep it a fetus. Uh, that robbed us of a few things, but yeah, I don't know. Those scenes also put me out a lot in The Northman. They put me out a lot in this movie. That's one of my complaints, I guess.
Yeah, that is one of my criticisms of this. And when it comes to why not aging up the characters, I think a big thing is the fact that look, Timothée Chalamet is a very capable actor. I have loved him in a lot of things. I think he's a very talented young actor. I think he has a ridiculous case of babyface, and he cannot pull off acting as like an older character. Because look, at the same year that I think he hit it big, the movie After Sun came out. His lead actor is the same age as him, and he pulled off being a single dad. I think it's about who you cast. And Zendaya I hate to say this, I have never been quite aware how old she is because, like, I am aware that she was on the Disney Channel, but I don't know how old she was then. And I think she gets casted in a lot of roles that I think are better suited for older women, but they keep insisting that she's the right age to play them. Because we had this with Malcolm and Marie, and we had this. She fits in Euphoria because she has like the face and everything for it. But Malcolm and Marie, like that should have been an older character. And this movie that's coming out, the Challengers movie, have you all seen that trailer?
Yeah, she looks older
Yeah.
though when she cuts her hair short.
I mean, I don't know. She still
Yeah.
looks like a high schooler to me.
A lot of it is makeup though.
I know. And we'll see how that movie comes out. I mean, Luca is a fucking genius, so like, why not? I trust the guy that made the Suspiria remake. But here, I feel like even though we're not getting that storyline of like them a little older, and especially the thing with okay, let's jump into spoilers. But Paul and her, they have a kid together.
Okay, hold on.
I said it already,
I was
so
aware.
Yeah, no, it's fine that that's out there, but before we continue with it, I want to ask Eddie. Eddie, why did Paul drink the water of life?
As it was written.
Yeah, but so we know at that point he didn't even want to go south. So then why, when he does go south, the first thing he does is drink the water of life?
I gotta assume that he figured out. I gotta assume at some point he was like, "This is the only shot I've got." Like,
Oh, so you gotta assume. Okay, that's
why?
nice.
Why?
I asked my sister the same thing, and you know what she said?
Why?
Because his mom told him to.
Oh my God.
So
I
okay.
fucking guess.
Oh wait, his mom was still able to force him. I thought he was able to fight her off.
Oh yeah, no, he is able to fight her off. That's not what happened. Chema, do you want to illuminate us a little bit?
No, I'll let you handle it. I feel like this is your episode.
Oh,
I
well,
really want you
okay.
to.
So
Yeah,
here's the thing, like Chema mentioned, Chani and Paul have a baby. They are supposed to have
yeah.
a baby.
Yeah.
And every story beat that leads up to them having a baby is in this movie. We see them boning, we see what comes after, and but the problem is that we cannot have them have a kid because Jessica is still pregnant with the kid she had before they even met. So we just can't have the kid around.
Just for time
Um,
frames. Yeah.
there's a scene, I don't know if you remember it, where Glosu Ravan, Dave Batista, is mounting an assault on Siege Tower. And he's all down and ready to go. And then he sees Paul and he turns tail and leaves. You remember this?
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was supposed to kill the baby at that point. In that scene, he's supposed to kill Paul and Chani's first child. And it is the death of the child that pushes Paul to play into his role. Because he realizes that even if he has prescience, even if he can see how this plays out centuries into the future, it is futile. Even if he does not want the jihad to come, even if he does not want to go south, there's nothing he can really do about it. So the death of his kid is what pushes him to resign and play into things as they were written. Uh, and that is just not in the movie at all. So Paul has no explicit motivation for breaking his reluctance.
Jimmy, you know what you just reminded me of, actually?
What?
I remember watching this movie at one point when they're losing, when the Fremen are fighting back very honorably and like they're taking back parts of the planet. And Batista's just getting more and more pressure put on him as far as like, take back control of the planet. We need the spice. You know that whole part?
Right.
I just remember thinking, these guys are fucking idiots. If this was me, I would have handled this. You have a nuclear stock? Gee, where do you aim it? We know that they're going to be in these certain parts. Gee, I wonder where you attack. Like I just
You
remember
know,
thinking, if I was the
that
monster of this movie, I would have won. I'm just saying.
that's something you lose a little bit from the format of the movie. Because the book makes it very clear why no one uses atomics. And it is because the moment you deploy your atomics, all the other houses are not going to wait to see what you hit. They are going to fire at you. Uh, and there's a lot of political tension in regards to that. And that's what's played into. That's kind of what gives Paul leverage to claim the throne eventually. The whole situation with the atomics. In this case, we just know they exist and they could use them, but there's consequences to using them, right?
Yeah. Um, but yeah, you know, I just
Speaking of,
go for it.
no, go ahead.
What-
Uh, I just wanted to say, like, shout out to Batista because, like, he continued that streak. Like, he was really good in the first one, and I think there's such a sadness to this character.
Yeah,
Think he was able to show like the family pressure that's coming to him as well, and the fact that at one point he just gets told like, "You're out, your cousin's in, you do whatever, you do something else because you're
yeah,
not."
dude, lick my feet. That was
Like my
brutal.
It's my
feet
boot.
was brutal. Yeah, kiss my
Yeah.
boot was brutal, and
But it wasn't like hyperbole of like kiss my ass. Like, no. Kiss my fucking shoe or
Or
you're
you die.
yeah.
yeah,
No hyperbole.
yeah, and there's so much that Batista does just with his eyes. Like he has such kind eyes, and
Very
he
nice.
really does. And then he nails this. And I saw an interview with him where he was saying that Denis Villeneuve is the only director that has come up to him and being like, you know what, you're really, really good, man. You're a really good actor. You've gone so far. And
I mean, they worked
uh,
together in 2049 as well.
yeah, and in the first one as well. So
Mm.
yeah, you can tell that he's liking working with him, and he's a good partner to have. I mean, it's good for Batista's career. It's something that The Rock will never ever have. So, what were you gonna say, Eddie?
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I noticed we're not really going in this film in order, but I think I think it would be too damn hard to try and follow this movie in order that it happens.
So many things happen in this film.
Well, so Jimmy, okay, so let me ask you a quick question. Because
Yeah,
we all came in this from different views as far as what we like, what we don't like.
right, right.
I kind of came into this a little more accepting than it was the first one. I think Chema was kind of open to it. He likes it. What didn't you like about this movie?
So we've touched a little bit on some of my complaints, and I think my biggest one is what I just mentioned, which is that you don't really follow Paul through his character arc in this movie. There's a huge gap there between being in the middle of the war and suddenly deciding to take the water of life. Because everyone I've talked to about this movie who is not familiar with the books, they've all had that same question. Like, hey, what happened there? Did I miss something? One of my friends explicitly asked me, like, hey, like was there something wrong with my movie theaters version or something? Like it really feels like there's a missing episode there or something. Um, and I think that the more attention you pay to it, the more glaringly obvious it is. And I feel like that's a complaint that I cannot um just give up on because it's not even an issue of adaptation, it's an issue of pacing and execution. Like even for someone who's trying to come in and enjoy this movie without anything else in their mind, just still, kind of glaring that that's there. Other than that, I just have a few complaints about character changes. I feel like Stilgar, for example, um, he's very fanatical from the very beginning, and that works out fine. I think I like how that comes off in the end. A few of my friends really hated it because the thing is that Stilgar is more of a father figure to Paul, really. And I don't think you get much of that in this movie. I think this movie could have benefited a little bit from letting that relationship build a bit more organically in the beginning. And in general, the beginning is what I have most of my issues with because I feel like the pacing at the start is all over the place and you get a ton of exposition dumps. And you got them in the first movie, but it was a lot more diegetic. Because it was all stuff that there was no way the characters could know beforehand, or just parts of Paul's education. He's growing up, he's learning about the world. And in this one, it's a lot more explicit that they are telling us this shit because we need to understand it for the movie, right? That is a matter of taste. I do think it works better for a blockbuster, but it's one of the things I appreciated from the first film. So I guess I do kind of have that bit of a bother. Um, and yeah, I guess mostly that. It's just I feel like it's really it weighs heavy on my heart, I guess.
Mhm.
Huh. Well, so if you don't mind me asking, I know to Chema, to you, the Percy Jackson series was a big deal to you. So when you finally got to see it adapted, it made your heart happy, right? When you saw this TV show that we just, had and we have a review on that, go check that out. Jimmy, would you say is this series similar to you to where it's like you're waited forever for this to finally be adapted properly, you finally get it, and you feel like it's not exactly what you wanted?
I think that that's more of a question for Chema really, because like I mentioned, I went into the first movie blind, and then I read the book in between both releases.
Right.
So it's not necessarily that I had been waiting on this for years, but I feel like it's more that I liked the first movie so much that I really had high expectations for the execution on this one. And I feel like that things that I love about the first movie are what's fumbled in this one. But it's also hard to just say like, oh, I didn't like it because technically uh, this is an astounding movie. All the shots are beautiful, all the scoring is beautiful, all the acting is great. So it's like I said, I felt so many things watching this. I cannot just say it was bad.
Mhm.
Um, but I still have some thorns in my flesh with some of the choices that were taken.
Hmm.
Mhm. And look, I read the book a couple of years before the movie came out because we had a really close friend that loved the books, and she would always talk about them. And and when I heard that, like, oh, Denis Villeneuve is adapting it, I was like, well, I love his movies. This is a man that his last seven movies are all masterpieces. Like, he has had no, you know, how
Clean
do I
sweep.
say this? He clean sweep. I mean, Dune Part 2, Dune, Blade Runner 2049, Arrival, Sicario, Enemy, Prisoners. These are all great modern contemporary movies that could become classics.
Right.
I think most of them are, especially like my favorite's Arrival. Like, I loved Arrival. To me, Arrival like made me so happy to be a human because like of everything that just happened in it.
I remember watching Arrival, and I took that class. I watched that movie right when I was taking a linguistics class, and I was telling Nikki, I understand everything that she means. It's,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That is still like my biggest like fight with the academy. Like, why did you not nominate Amy Adams for that movie? Because it was wonderful. And then so I heard Denis Villeneuve was doing it, so I sit down, I read the book. I hate reading it at the beginning because they're all new terms that I have to learn and all new words, and I'm like, I just graduated college, I don't fucking need this. But I ended up really like mellowing out towards it. I read it a lot because after graduating, I was unemployed for a bit, and that was kind of like my companion for a bit. So that book, like, I relate that book in that part of my life. So when the movie came out, I was like, I don't know, like I feel like I should have seen it in the theater. I hate to say this because a good movie should work even if you're watching it on your phone, but a movie of that scope, I really should have seen it in the theater. I They re-released this on theaters before the second one. I should have gone. I should have gone and seen it. But No, I'm not gonna wait until the third one comes out for me to praise this one. I'm gonna do it right off the bat. To me, this movie deserves all the flowers, and I adored it. I loved it, and to me, it works as a blockbuster. This movie already made the same amount that Oppenheimer did when it came out last year, and this didn't have a Barbie movie attached to it.
And it's a March release, yeah.
And it's a March release. Like, we shouldn't be having movies this good this early in the year. Like,
No.
I have like my list of my 2024 watches, and it's just embarrassing.
I
It's
think 2025
embarrassing
more
that
stacks.
I have to compare this to like Argyle and Madame Web and Mean Girls, that I have to
Oh
like put
boy.
them on a ranked list. It's absolutely disgusting. Um,
Don't forget,
but
Kung Fu Panda 4 comes out later this month.
oh yeah,
I'm a
Might
huge
do
I
it.
fan.
I still need to watch two and three because I've only seen the first
I
one.
also
First
do
one's the
still
best.
need to watch 2 and 3. Um,
Yeah.
The first one's the best, I'm saying.
Oh my God.
I love.
Really? Because I've heard it just gets better.
oh,
So
does it?
I've heard it
Part
gets.
two, part two is really really good. It's not as good as the first, but it is really good. I've never seen part three.
I've heard the villain of the second one is really good. It's Gary Oldman.
Yeah,
So I've heard
he's
he's like genuinely terrifying.
he uses technology instead of kung fu. He's one of those.
Gross. Anyway, all right. So we are, I think this has been a good conversation. I think this has been a lot of what we feel. I think we should start getting to final thoughts before the show lasts two hours like last week.
Oh,
And
Yeah, that's true.
Eddie, you want to start with you? What are your final thoughts on Dune
Sure.
Part Two?
Dune 2 is easily an A. To be frank, maybe it should be like an A plus because it dug the other like Dune Part 1 out of the sand for me. But um, incredible visuals, great action, great story, likable characters, a story you can fucking follow. It feels like an old Odyssey, an old epic, like the kind of story that they made you read in high school. But this is actually pretty fucking good.
hmm.
Um, yeah, nothing but praise for me.
All right, Jimmy.
Well, I just wanna I guess touch a little bit on the kind of conversations that this movie sparks because I love hearing what people have to say about this film. Like what Eddie mentioned just now, that this feels like a classical epic. Um, it really does, and it really should, because I feel like Dune more than a book series is a mythology and a living mythology essentially. And I do feel like some of my other complaints about this movie have a little to do with that because I feel like the first Dune book is supposed to be essentially like reading the Bible. And it's supposed to just be a recounting of Paul's ascension to Muad'Dib and eventually Padishah Emperor, right? And I feel like this movie takes a few leaps forward, and we start seeing the constructions of that from this point. Um, which I get. I just feel like some of the choices that were made here were made to prevent some uncomfortable conversations about the material in the movie, like some of the filming customs that they changed to make them more palatable to Western standards. Some of the changes made to Channy's character were a little weird because I feel like in some ways it's she has more agency in the book than she does in the movie, even though the changes were made to give her more agency. Uh, but I mean, there's also the thing where when Jessica gives water to the dev and Stilgar is like, "No, don't do that, baby girl. Give it to me instead." Uh, that is one of the most iconic things in the Dune mythos of all time because it is Paul that gives water to the dev. He gives water to Jamis. for having been the first person he kills, for having been a potential friend. He has to present himself before the Fremen as a friend of Jammy's. And it is the fact that he gives water to the dead, which is one of the prophecies of Muad'Dib that begins to endear the greater Fremen populace towards him. And that always has been a huge thing, giving water to the dead. It's one of the iconic phrases, right along with "Fear is the mind killer." Uh, I mean, it is almost like Jesus carrying the cross to Mount Calvary. It is honestly on that level, and the fact that they turned it into a little flirtatious moment between Stilgar and Jessica, I'm incensed. Honestly, I'm a little mad.
I didn't take
Uh,
it as flirting. I just thought like he was sending a message like, "Do not waste your water." Like it showed me how.
Oh no, it was a little flirty. Stilgar is in the book especially, he's super down to fuck everything that moves.
Uh, I think also like a big thing is that those are Rebecca Ferguson and Javier Bardem. Like they have chemistry with rocks.
Right.
Like I think a big thing is them. Um I Jimmy, I forgot to ask you, and this is very important. And we haven't touched on it at all during this review. You were very, very adamant and very, very open on the fact that you did not like the casting of Florence Pugh as Princess Irulan. Now that you've seen
Yes.
the movie, how do you feel about it?
They shut my goddamn trap. They grabbed me by the mouth. They say, "Shh, just watch, just watch." We open with a little bit of a monologue from her. We see her throughout the movie, like having this quiet reflection scenes, and we see her in this like fantastic chainmail outfit. I didn't like the way it looked on her in all the promo shots, but seeing it in motion really sold me on it. And when I started watching the first Dune, well, I was kind of in a bad place, but I put it on, and that one opens with Irulan reading the intro to her book that she writes eventually about Paul, and I just saw that woman and I felt like this is the most beautiful woman I've seen in my life. This is insane. This is crazy. I sent that to you, Chema. I sent you the
Yeah.
link to the intro and I was like, how is she so pretty? Um, and I'm glad to say Florence Pugh is continuing the tradition of Fiorulan being the most beautiful human in existence at the point of recording. Because yes,
The outfits she was wearing were insane. The one that she's wearing in the last scene, like in the duel scene,
fantastic.
I cannot imagine that being comfortable. Like I imagine like Florence will like move like a little bit and she'll get stabbed in the eye. Like it was
Yeah.
that that amazing. I didn't get a chance to talk about Christopher Walken as playing the Emperor Shaddam Corino the Fourth. Um, Look, I love Christopher Walken. To me, he's like if an alien came down to Earth and just pretended to be a human for a little bit, and it's just a bit that went too long. He was is kind of scary in this one
Hmm.
because I think the fact that he almost never looks at anyone in the eye and has that very commanding presence and very commanding voice, I think added a lot. And also the fact that he joined the movie like after the first one, I think adds a lot of credibility also to the product. So big fan of that. My final thoughts on the movie is that this is the reason why we go to the theater
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
movies like this exactly. Um, you want to see it in a big screen. You want to have a big tub of popcorn and a big soda while watching it. You want to laugh with your fellow moviegoers. You want to get excited. You want to gasp. You want to fuck the popcorn bucket. Like
I don't know about that last part.
you want the whole experience. And I think this, much like Barbenheimer last year, this and so many others, this is one of those phenomenons that you can remember and be like, I was there. I was there when Doom Part 2 came out. I saw it, and like I can see this. I so very easily see this like in 10, 20 years being like, hey, anniversary screening, like we're showing
Oh,
both Dunes in theaters
I
and
would love
excited. Like
that.
I put this on my Instagram story the other day, like so the Furiosa trailer is coming out, and someone posted this tweet saying they saw the trailer and their partner kind of turned to them and be like, how would you feel if they brought back Fury Road back to theaters for this? And like they gasped. Like I was like, yes, like if I could watch Fury Road again in theaters, I would go crazy. Fury Road is one of the only movie posters I have behind me. It's
Yeah.
right there. I love Fury Road. So, and I feel like this movie is going to carve itself into pop culture, into our time in history. Unless a bigger movie comes out this year, this might be the year of Dune.
You're still early. We still got some contenders coming up.
Yeah,
We'll
like,
see.
sure. Like,
Well, if you all would be down for it, I mentioned I started watching the movie. I only watched the first 2 minutes of it, the original Dune,
yeah.
because I was not in the headspace to process something like that. So if you all want to do like a rollback retro or a rollback throwback or a
Rollback,
rollback back
throwback.
roll for the original Dune movie, I'd be down to do that one of these weeks.
That'd be fun. I haven't seen it in a long time, and the only time that I've seen it, I really did not like it.
Well, put yourself
But
through it again, baby.
I've heard
I
it's
could do that.
garbage, but
It's not that it's not that it's garbage. It's just that it's David Lynch, and it's like you can tell that that's not what he wanted to do at all. You can tell he
I'm,
wanted to do something more accurate to the book, and it's
Tragic
just
case.
yeah.
are we getting
But
seven David Lynch or not seven Lynch?
uh, what?
No, this is gonna be something completely out of what you expect from David Lynch. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't don't try to go into this prepared because I don't think any of us are.
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Uh,
I'm down at some point. I'm down.
it's
What
kind of cool. Like I like Paul McClane. I like him as Paul.
I love that
Uh,
kid.
Patrick Stewart plays Gurney. Um, so
Jesus.
yeah, like it's yeah, it's there. It exists. I think even David Lynch is like, that one, I didn't do that. I made the movie with the monkey.
Also question. What are we
Yeah.
doing next week? Are we doing Kung Fu Panda 4 Imaginary or are we gonna do Dune, the OG?
Well, Kung Fu Panda doesn't come out here until next week, so I can't really do that one. But what else is coming out?
I see only Imaginary as the other option.
I don't think that one's coming out here either.
Unless you want to review Avatar.
Do you want to finally do
Or we could
fucking no do you want to finally do Saltburn,
oh
or
God.
has the time passed?
I feel like the time has passed, but I'm still down to throw some rounds. I still got some fisticuffs in me.
Jesus.
Jimmy, you want to
Um,
for a rousing round of beat the shit out of Saltburn?
I have not seen Saltburn.
Oh, you want to get a tiebreaker?
I do. I would be so down to watch it next week and hop in with you all.
fuck it, let's do it because I liked it and Eddie thought it was pretentious.
I think it is
So
pretentious as fuck. It's an okay story with a bunch of shock value that makes it a great movie.
you
That's my
cannot you cannot call shit on shock value. We just talked about Hasbin Hotel.
She
So
salt on my burn till I
fucks
Keegan.
a grave. He slurps up semen water.
Ah!
why would you spoil it for Jimmy?
How has Jimmy not heard about these fucked up scenes?
Jim is really good
Have you
at
been on
avoiding
TikTok?
that.
No, brother, I live under a rock.
Well then, congratulations. You're gonna watch Saltburn and you're gonna get to experience all this bullshit.
No, but even though I do live under a rock, of course I know about semen water. There was no way that wasn't gonna get down to me.
There
That
you go.
there.
There you fucking go. So, folks, catch us next week where we will be reviewing Saltburn. And you can hear
All
about
right.
why it's garbage from me. Or you can check out my YouTube review. You know, whatever.
Thank you so much for joining us. My name was Jim. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to give this a score. I'm giving this 9.5 out of 10, by the way. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Chema.
This
I've been
was
Eddie.
Jem.
And this was the rollback. Signing off with a reminder that if you do buy the AMC Dune 2 popcorn bucket, and if you do plan on getting intimate with it, please do it at home. You get to take it home. Why do it in the theater? There's people in there.
Dude,
Good night, everyone.
Jim, are you okay?
Obviously not.
They ran out of Doom buckets.
Oh, you tried to get one?
I didn't get my hands on one.
Damn it.
I'm
Dang
gonna
it.
get there.
Uh